Lincoln Goldfinch, one of the top, if not top, maybe my favorite. So I'm going to say she's top immigration attorneys in the country. Kate, welcome back to Choose Views. Glad to be with you this morning.
Hey, good morning. How you doing? Sorry I'm late.
You're not late. You're here. No, you're fine. You're fine. I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited about our conversation. I know we don't have all the time in the world. We could have you on for hours to talk about all that's happening right now. But I'm glad you're back, and I know you've been super busy the last few weeks since we had you on. Give us an update. Give us a state of the union in terms of what you've been working on. I know we've got a couple things I want to ask you, but give us an update of what's happening.
I would say it's worse than ever before in terms of people being taken. The detentions are up, and the way that people are getting detained mostly is through traffic stops. And it's thousands a day, and they're taken from their families and they're being put into detention centers. 2 days ago, I think it was, another person was killed by ICE. His name was Lorenzo Salgado Araujo. He's a man from Mexico who's been in this country for 35 years, 3 U.S. citizen sons, driving his construction crew, and ICE shot and killed him, and then claimed that he was weaponizing his vehicle, which there is no evidence of. So that is the big, sad, heartbreaking news of the moment, that these ICE agents just continue to be untrained and unchecked, and people are dying on the streets and in detention. And when something like the Lorenzo killing happens, people do pay attention. So there are eyes on the situation right now, but it does start to feel in the interim like these invisible takings of people aren't as known publicly, and that I don't know if your audience feels this way, that the immigration conversation quiets down a little bit when people aren't, being murdered on the streets, or there aren't raids and things like that, but more and more people are being taken. And that's the part I think that's been really hard to witness, is that it's happening and there isn't the same public outrage in the in-between moments.
Well, you said something the last time you were on that I think was, I know you're the first person that I heard say it, which is even the fact that we're not seeing it on television or we're not seeing it on our phones doesn't mean that it's not happening. And you said, which I've been trying to repeat as much as possible, and in many ways it's actually more things that are happening. We're just not seeing them like we were. With, obviously the 2 cases up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the one here in Chicago, and all that. And, I'm not a conspiracy person, but I just look at things and go, there's a plan here. And what's my point? Corporate media isn't covering things as much as they were. And I think that that's by design. When we look at this is so Kate, when I've said that the consolidation of media isn't just about, what shows you're going to watch in terms of your streaming and all that. It's about the coverage of news. It's about coverage of issues. And I dare say that when you look at a CBS and Barry Weiss and all that's happening, we have enough evidence. Scott Pelley, spilled the tea when he said that she's been trying hard to get them to say things a certain way and not cover certain stories a certain way. To me, this is where the consolidation is an issue, because now corporate media, I feel like they've basically retreated from covering the things that are happening on the ground when it comes to people being grabbed and these shootings. I mean, tell me your thoughts there.
I think that that's certainly true, that corporate media is taking over and is not covering these things. And I think that what happens in these sort of vacuums of real information is that people get into their echo chambers on social media, and they believe the lies that they tell each other. And I remember I was on a conservative, what's his name, Leland something or other. He's a conservative talk radio guy, and I was telling him that I personally had heard of 3 stories of children left behind when their parents were taken by the police. And I had just a few days before that gotten off the phone with a 16-year-old boy who was in his dad's work truck. he and his brother, who was just over 18, and himself, and his dad got pulled over, and they left his dad's work truck and this boy on the side of the road who doesn't have a driver's license, and they took his dad and his brother. And this kid was the third kid that I personally had heard of or spoken to being left behind by law enforcement. And so I was telling this conservative talk show host about my experience and about how these enforcement actions are, harming children, and surely we're not with this. And he just immediately said, well, I need evidence of that. Like, you're not telling the truth, as if I was inventing it, which was the exact same response I got on social media when I posted about the same thing. People either celebrate the murder of Lorenzo, which they did on my social media post about that, which I don't even know what to say about that, or they're confronted with something real and unacceptable, like leaving children behind, and then the immediate response that they have is, it's a lie. You're a liar. You're just some lady on the radio. You're just some lady posted on social media. I don't have to believe you because you're a liar. So there's no, place of truth for the truth anymore. And what's happening in that vacuum is really scary. And I know we all see it online. And my lens on this is my social media, because I post about this stuff every day, and somehow it gets to the wrong side. They say the wrong side of Facebook, the wrong side of TikTok. And I see, and they're not bots. I mean, I check these profiles. These are literal humans. And the way that they respond to these things and think about these things is really scary. And it's really clear that they have no truth in their life about what's happening.
There's no quote unquote North Star, if you will, of truth and that's, it seems like everybody's saying, I think everybody's saying a version of that there's no sort of central bank, if you will, that we can go, yeah, we know that that's the truth, or we know that that's not true, or parts of it are need to be challenged. That's not really, in my mind, an area that we can depend on. And the consolidation of media, corporate media specifically, is amplifying that reality that there isn't a real place to go, because it doesn't seem as though. And then I have to be specific and say CBS is at the front of the line of not allowing its journalists to speak the truth based on the facts that they've researched. I mean, the Scott Pelley situation was, if there wasn't Don Lemon gets fired. We've got other folks that have had things happen, gets arrested, and there's other things that, like I said, but the thing with Scott Pelley to me was really, if we needed an eye opener about how the media is been compromised, and CBS specifically, and its connection to Paramount and the Ellison family and the White House, that truth doesn't really seem to matter right now. And I'm repeating myself, but I feel like much of corporate media has sort of backed away from telling the stories that you just talked about in a way that keeps people on point and angry and frustrated and in the street, because they know that that's not to the benefit of the Republican Party right now. It's just calling it as it is. So thank you for reminding us of that. I think the person you were talking about was Leland Vitter or Vittman or something like that. Was it on News Nation? Was that who you were on? The conservative.
Leland was his name. Let me see if I can find.
I think it's Leland Vitter. That seems to come to mind for me, but I could be wrong.
He's in Louisville. WHAS Radio was his name.
Okay.
I kind of went off on him.
Well, yeah, because that's where I'm going. I'm not going to let you get away from that, because I check out the stuff that you post, and I'm here to tell you guys need to go and check out Kate's post, because she rarely gets she rarely goes down that path. Where she publicly will dress somebody down, but this was one of those moments where she did, and she got to get some salty language involved in the process too, which I thought was Spot on, Kate. So kudos to you for defending not only yourself, but defending what you believe and what you posted. So I do say thank you for that, because sometimes you just got to let people know you're not going to cross that line with me. And with the work that you do, it's about the work that you do. And when that's challenged and people say, oh, no, that's not happening, you're on the ground. You see it literally every day, Monday through Sunday. So I just got to give you your flowers there. Kate, let's take a quick break. When we come back, I got to get your thoughts on birthright citizenship and what's happening there. I want to talk a little bit about how you're navigating some of your work with businesses and how they're being impacted by what's happening with immigration. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm talking with immigration attorney Kate Lincoln Goldfinch. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. If you're just tuning in, I'm Richard Chu. We're talking with Kate Lincoln Goldfinch, who is one of those leading voices and an immigration attorney for all of our country, but she's based in Austin, Texas. Kate, obviously the 6-3 decision with regard to birthright citizenship was a huge relief, a deep breath for all of us. You know, I thought it should have been 9-0 because it's in the Constitution. It's not a debatable item. It should have been 9-0 because the Constitution's very clear. It's literally very clear. And I know some people wanted to try to spin the what's the one phrase? Gosh darn it.
Subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
Damn. I love that. How did you know? So how did you know? That's what I was struggling with. Yes. Go. Talk to us, Kate. Talk to us about this decision.
Well, I mean, it should have been a 9-0. It shouldn't have never been at the court in the first place. You know, the Supreme Court is the one court that can grant cert to hear cases or not. You know, so they could have just said, this whole thing is preposterous. We're not even going to give it our airtime. But they heard arguments on the case. And that at that moment, you know, once the executive order came down, which of course was Trump's attempt on the first day in office to end birthright citizenship. And once the executive order came down, I thought, that's, you know, just a lot of noise. We're not going to need to worry about that. And then they granted cert, heard oral arguments. And the oral arguments seemed to go pretty well. And then I was still feeling rather confident. And then the Supreme Court toward the end of the term was giving a bunch of decisions siding with Trump leading up to it. And it was a nail biter. You know, it was the last day of the term. We knew the birthright citizenship case or decision was going to be dropping that morning. And it came down and it was, you know, 5-4 or 6-3, depending upon how you count Kavanaugh's concurrence in the middle. And of course, the court ultimately decided properly that the president can't change the Constitution by executive order. But the fact that we had to worry about it, had a Supreme Court case, had a decision that was not a slam dunk, shows you just how bad it is. But ultimately, on the question of birthright citizenship, I think we really can exhale at this point, because there's no way Congress is going to try and pass some statute, you know, about it. I can't even envision that. Yeah,
and I'm going to merge a couple things here. We've been following, like all of us, the conversation around what's happening up in Maine with Graham Plattner. And I've been saying, listen, we need to tag Susan Collins. She's the real culprit. She's the real villain here. Plattner's issues are Plattner's issues. But for, 3 decades, Susan Collins has stabbed everybody in the back, not just in Maine, but the country at large because of her voting. We talk about Brett Kavanaugh in this conversation and his sort of milquetoast commentary after this decision. And I look at that and I go, for the people who want to get behind where he is, what are you looking at? This is the same guy that was rightfully, by many standards, accused of, raping Dr. Ford. Yet he's now saying that Congress should have or should try to use their purview to create a situation where, and it's just, that's why people, I believe, have to pay even closer attention, because this is where we end up. And it's my moment where I get to say Hillary Clinton was right. She laundry listed some things that were going to happen. And boy, have they played out, unfortunately, to our disadvantage. But I wanted to get your take on that as it relates to the standing in the first place, and why it should even have crossed the doors of the Supreme Court and been up for oral arguments, because most legal experts have said that that was the mistake. That was the first mistake, to even let it be there. But the makeup of the Supreme Court is probably the main reason for that. With business owners and across the board, but I know that, you know, your primary focus is in Texas. But what are you seeing now? What are you hearing from businesses, and what are some of the things that they're doing to try to create a better place, a better workforce, or workforce opportunities for people that are caught up or potentially going to be caught up in what's happening with immigration in Texas and the greater parts of the country? The employer did. And he for this. Are you, I guess this is, how do I want to phrase this question? Are there preemptive things that businesses are doing or that you're helping them do and or be prepared for in the event that someone that is a part of their employment gets snatched or gets detained, even for the day? What are you sort of trying to do to help in that space?
Yeah, we've done, so we do a lot of resource dissemination. So we have a workplace safety packet. It's all available. I don't know if you want me to give the website, but it's free for download. It's Abogada, Kate, Abogada means attorney in Spanish.com. And there's a resources page that has the WorkSafe packet, which has the sign you can post on the private areas of a business, because a private area of a business is just like a house. It's protected in the same way constitutionally. So we've done that for businesses. We're doing the safety planning packets, of course, for the immigrants themselves, which protects children and liberty, but also we're rolling out an asset and pet protection part of the packet, so that, because there's this, this idea, people often ask me, like, how do you get paid for what you do, with this idea that immigrants are indigent or they don't have money, when in fact immigrants are very resourceful, responsible. They often have more savings. And, I know this, I ran a bankruptcy practice for a long time. I had no immigrant clients in my bankruptcy practice, but immigrants are as concerned about the house that they bought, the car that they own, the business that they run, as they are with what happens if I get picked up. So we're also talking to people about durable power of attorney and how do you get access to your bank account if you get detained. So that's kind of the pre-work that we're doing right now.
That's, we all laughed in the studio when you said that, and laughing in favor of, and once again, that embracing laugh of our brothers and sisters who are immigrants from the southern border, as much as immigrants from our other three that we have. People forget about that sometimes, Kate. I know you don't, but we have three other borders, and folks are coming from different parts of the planet to the United States. And that leads me to this last little question I'm going to ask you. It's a quick one, and then we'll let you go. But are you seeing numbers of are you seeing our immigrant numbers decline from countries, from European countries? Is there anything out there that you've seen that's showing a reduction because folks are saying, you know what, right now I don't want to test the waters in the United States?
Yes, for sure. That is definitely happening. And I don't have the latest statistics on that. I just know sort of like through fuzzy memory what I've seen over the years, but over the year. But, the student visas are declining. People are choosing not to come here and study because they don't want to come here. They're afraid that they're going to lose their visas. The employment visas have been impacted, the $100,000 fee for H-1B visas that then got struck down. So professional workers who would come here are not coming. People are preferring to go to Canada. And visitors are also choosing not to come here because Europeans have been detained and treated very badly. So all levels of immigrant, from the high-level tech investor, worker, to the visitor, are electing like, you know what, I think I'm just not going to bother with that right now. And so I don't have the stats on that, but that's definitely happening, and it's impacting us from an economic tourism perspective and also from a labor force perspective.
Yeah,
for sure.
Kate Lincoln Goldfinch, we need 3 hours to talk about all that's going on, but we thank you so much. I say this to you all the time, and I mean it. We appreciate your hard work. We know how hard it is from what you've told us to do what you're doing, but thanks as always for being with us this morning. And just stay safe, okay? We look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks. I always love talking to you too. So
all right.
See you soon.
See you soon. All right, Kate. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.